Well, Pip Gale of Feedworks.
G'day, Nick.
It's a great pleasure to have you here today. Thanks for the effort to come along and represent Feedworks.
Thank you.
Who have, I should say, sponsored our major award division. I just wanted to take a bit of time with you to talk about Feedworks, your position within the industry, and maybe a little bit about yourself. Can you start us off by just talking a little bit about your background and how, as a young guy, you got interested in ruminant feeding, and what were the inspirations there?
Yeah, sure. So thanks, Nick. Great question. So yeah, look, for me, and I'll try not to talk for too long. It's a bad habit.
As long as you want.
So for me, grew up on a dairy farm down in the very far northwest corner of Tasmania. So I guess, growing up in the 80s on the dairy farm, it was one of those things that really just captured my attention when I started to discover nutrition in cows and how that also linked up with the economic performance in a dairy business. It really captured my attention, and I realised that nutrition was one of the real key drivers behind that. So the first nutritionist I actually met was a bloke by the name of Ian Sawyer, and he was coming down to Tasmania and
know him well, man after my own heart, shaved head, yep.
And I'm very privileged to be working with him again now at the Feedworks business. But so through meeting Ian and other people over time, it really just highlighted the importance of ruminant nutrition, and again how it links up with business. And so that just really stirred a passion in me to really go and pursue that as a career. So yeah, really excited to have been able to pursue that over the last sort of about 23 years now. So so it's been great.
So 23 years, that's a fair stretch of time. Do you recognise phases of nutritional focus over that 23 years where the conversation around what's being looked at in terms of the nutrition going through the cow, in this case, has changed?
When I look back, 23 years, some of the early things we were looking at, we started to learn about things like NDF, particularly in forages, and just how important that was around gut fill and intake. Then over the time, we've learned about it's not just about the NDF, it's also the digestibility of the NDF and paddock oxidation, and that there are other metabolic parameters that actually have an impact on gut fill at different stages of lactation as well. Righto. So I guess the things that gets me excited about nutrition of recent times is when we've really started to learn about metabolic efficiency, particularly carbohydrate fractions, amino acids, different nutrients that will change the metabolic profile of the animal, and the efficiency with which they're able to convert the foods that they're consuming into the milk solids or the weight gain, etc., that a producer is going to be selling or generating revenue with in future. So particularly around blood glucose and the interaction of the liver and what's happening in the liver, fatty liver, those types of concepts that have enabled us to deal with some of the challenges that we might see health-wise in animals, that have actually been a bit of a lid on metabolic efficiency, that have really helped us take some quantum leap forwards in the productivity of the animal, the health of the animal, and how efficiently they convert nutrients into kilograms of milk solids, etc., but also recent times as well with a reduced environmental footprint. It's a really exciting field. There's so much, we learn every day, and I guess that's the thing that's exciting for me about it.
And you've touched on it briefly there, but what will the challenges be over the next 3 to 5 years with ingredients into the animal?
Yeah, so I think the challenge with ingredients is going to be in and around, well, how do we continue to manage a changing environmental footprint? So we're seeing it this year environmentally with so many flood affected areas and regions, things of that nature. What are the impact on the quality of forage, but also the availability of forage? Can we more effectively use some of the non-forage fibre sources and things that are around us to good effect? Historically, we've really focused on just providing nutrients for production, particularly in dairy cows of recent years, but I think more in future when we're sitting down and formulating products or feeds for our cows, we're actually going to think about the health of the animal first. So I think this is going to be a bit of a switch.
So as a stock feed company, and you as a supplier to stock feed companies and direct to farmer markets, I know from experience we deal in hundreds of products within the vitamin, mineral, additive components, which is just a small component to the overall mix. How does the farmer get confidence in these micro or macro ingredients that go into the mix to know this ingredient can pack some punch?
The mantra of Feedworks, since the day Mel started the business, has been performance through science. We're always looking at the published data. Is it repeatable? That's probably the first question that we always ask. We're trying to do a lot of that filtering work, on behalf of a business so that we can go out and talk to people about, well, how does this product actually do the work? And is that going to be applicable to this business and this situation? Because there's an investment involved. We're asking people to invest, so we have to be able to demonstrate that there will be an outcome for them.
What do you think are the great strengths that Feedworks brings to the equation as a supplier to the stock feed industry?
The networking, the connections that we have globally to be able to go and resource, incredibly high quality products with really high levels of efficacy. I think the second thing as well is the experience that our nutrition teams have as well.
What are just the high level major components that are thought about when designing a ration for a farm?
Yeah, sure, yeah. Cows have a nutrient requirement, so they don't have a requirement for pasture or for hay or for wheat and things of that nature. They have a nutrient requirement. So as a nutritionist, the first thing that you're doing is you're trying to evaluate, well, what's the nutrient requirements for that cow, for her age, for her stage of lactation, for her level of milk production, for the amount of activity she has. You're making that evaluation first. Then you're looking at the forages and you're saying, all right, well, we have the forage that's available to the cows for consumption today. That's going to deliver this percentage of the nutrients that cow's requiring. And then we can come in and balance through the in-shed feed systems and the like, the nutrients that we aren't able to access that the cow requires relative to the forage. So it's about really trying to balance that one up. Brilliant.
Thanks,
Cheers,
mate.
Nick.
Double
Thank
handshake.
You.